Hello and welcome to Ask the Expert. Today we have a question from John about details of our Sub-6 subwoofer. So John is asking, what is the total latency of Sub-6? That is a very interesting question, mainly because the Sub-6 is a DSP-based subwoofer. And there's a lot of benefits to having a DSP inside a subwoofer. You can tailor the output optimally for the driver inside that cabinet and optimize the output. One of the drawbacks of using a DSP is you can very often have what is called latency. What latency means is the total delay of the signal from it enters the subwoofer until sound comes out from the speaker driver. That's what we call latency. The longer the latency time is, the harder it is to align the subwoofer with the loudspeakers. And this has to do with the timing of the sound coming out of the subwoofer versus the sound coming out of the loudspeaker. The closer the speaker and the subwoofer are in time, the easier it is to actually correlate the sound between them. So for a subwoofer, it's a benefit to have as low latency as possible to make that timing work properly. So in a surround sound system where you have an AV receiver, you might want to enter the distance between each speaker and the listening position into the AV receiver. So the AV receiver will compensate for that difference in distance. But if you measure that distance and one of the speaker, which is the subwoofer, has a delay due to the DSP, you have to take that into account when entering in the distance. In our case, fortunately, the Sub-6 has an extremely fast DSP. So that means the total latency of the Sub-6 is only 2.5 milliseconds, which is extremely low for a DSP-based subwoofer. That makes it a lot easier to integrate it both in stereo systems but also in surround sound systems. Having a 2.5 millisecond latency is essentially the same as a distance of 85 centimeters. So if you're putting in the numbers in your AV receiver, you can add 85 centimeters to the distance, and that will compensate for the 2.5 milliseconds. But there's another reason why having a very low latency in the subwoofer is an advantage. When we want the subwoofer to properly correlate with the speaker, what we essentially need is for the speaker and the subwoofer to be in phase. And in phase means that the sound is arriving at the same time, or more accurately, the waves are moving forwards and backwards together in sync. So essentially, if the subwoofer and the speaker is within about 60 degrees of each other in terms of phase, they will correlate within about 1 dB. So for a proper correlation between the two, we need a certain time difference. 60 degrees of phase, how much is that in milliseconds? Well, that depends on the frequency. And if we take an example of 40 Hertz, 60 degrees of phase is actually around 4 milliseconds. And that means when the subwoofer only has 2.5 milliseconds by itself, we still have 1.5 milliseconds to play with. So essentially, as long as the subwoofer is within about half a meter of the speaker, they will still be essentially in phase.